7:15. And Mike's at mic number 2 again. Hi.
This is like deja vu, like a bad scene out of Groundhog Day or something.
And Elka at mic number 4.
Hey.
Welcome, everybody. We're going to be talking about a little personal training here in just a minute. So I missed you on Monday, and
Oh yeah,
things went good.
We had a big old time.
Good.
That was our running joke. That's when you're not here, the ratings spike. Now we didn't say which way they spiked; they just spiked. Okay.
I can just imagine.
We had a good time. It all went very well.
So we want to talk today about training at Barron Creek, NRA Personal Protection in the Home. Elka, we'll let you lead off and talk a bit about this.
At Training at Barron Creek, we are offering a nationally recognized NRA class, Personal Protection in the Home, and it is to help people learn how to better defend themselves in their home, things that they can do to make their home safer, and appropriate defensive handgun shooting for a situation that arises in their home.
I would think that the first, this is the line from Henry Blake and MASH, the first thing people do in a situation like this is panic.
That's usually correct. And
how do we avoid that? Because now this is what I was talking about when they were discussing teachers in schools.
Mm-hmm.
When you've got 25 or 30 students in the classroom and that protective mode comes in, how do you protect and not panic? Same thing in the home.
Yes, you train for that. You recognize what can happen. You say, what are the things that can happen in my home, and how am I going to deal with these, so that if something does happen, you don't panic and be still and do nothing. You have a plan of action that you've already come up with, and you go ahead and put it into action as soon as you recognize the threat.
So recognizing the threat, 3 o'clock in the morning, 35-year-old woman at home by herself has to be able to wake up, figure out what's going on, plan of action in a matter of 2 or 3 seconds.
Yes.
And that's where your training comes in.
Yes. We help them develop plans for that.
Okay. Step 1, how do we do that? Sign up for the course.
Yes. And we'll tell you all about it. It's an 8-hour class. It covers a lot of things, and sometimes it covers things that you may not have thought about, like how you may feel after you've had to deal with this situation. Yes, there are some very interesting things that we discuss, including the reactions you may have, the reactions your friends and family may have. So this class is to help prepare you to deal with all of those possibilities and make those preparations, kind of like insurance, so that hopefully it'll never happen, but if it does, you've got a plan to deal with it.
That 35-year-old woman you were talking about, Dale, and, she's waking up at 3 o'clock in the morning. You gave her 2 to 3 seconds to be ready, to deal with the threat that she may be encountering. One, in this class, we'll talk a little bit about hardening up your doors, like good locks, reinforcing the door jambs and things like that. And that's going to buy her some time to get woke up. Okay. Mm-hmm. This plan that Elka's talking about, in her mind, she needs to have already come up with what she's going to do. If you throw somebody in the middle of a bad situation with no plan, there's no telling what they will do. Will they freeze? Will they panic? What are they going to do? She will have this in her head, if she's done this correctly, what she wants to do. She'll have a phone close by where she could call, get a hold of 911, and she will know what steps needs to be taken. She won't be just launched into this, okay? That's part of the planning, part of the visualization that needs to be done in advance. Just like our county, all of our governments have got plans in case we have a tornado blast through Mountain Home. We don't want to have to come up with that plan at spur of the moment.
Now, question. When you just said call 911, let's go back to the 35-year-old single woman at home. She's trying to be as quiet as she can. And so if I pick up my phone, of course, I use the antiques, it makes noise when I dial. But now when I call 911, they're going to say, 911, what's your emergency? And you have to talk. That gives away your hiding spot, so to speak, because if that guy's in the other room and he's trying to figure out where you are and you're trying to tell these people, is there not a function on a phone where I could hit one button silently and it would go ahead and trigger 911 without me saying, well, there's somebody in my house. I think he's trying to blah, blah, blah. You know what I'm saying?
It's important for you to give the information. Hopefully, you will have barricaded yourself in an area that he can't hear quite so well. You can also leave the phone open once you've gotten 911 and let them listen if you're afraid to be able to talk at that moment. It will depend on the situation.
Interesting.
Yep.
So what else are you going to cover? Oh, being an 8-hour course.
There's going to be a lot of things. You know, there will be a range part of this course where we will take the people out.
Oh, really?
Yep. They will get to do some shooting and 150 rounds. Would that be correct?
150 rounds
yep.
would be a good number to bring. And the shooting that we'll be doing will be centered on defensive accuracy. This is not target shooting at great distances. This is of the distance that would be most likely to happen for you. Your home's not a football field long, so you're not going to be shooting at 50 yards. You're going to be dealing with...
Mainly for what would it be from here to the door? What is it, 25 feet, 30 feet?
Yes, yeah. And about we do exercises at 3 yards, at 5 yards, at 7 yards is the max distance, because that's a pretty good range for the distances in your home.
Huh.
Yep.
Well planned out.
Yes. And some of those exercises, you know, there's nothing that's terribly hard. They're an eye opener in some of the things that you'll get to do. You'll get to load and unload your gun. You'll get to shoot from various distances. You'll get to shoot from around cover, from behind cover. It's interesting, and you'll learn quite a bit from that.
Now, defensive shooting, like Alka just said, is not standing there like if I wanted to shoot the right front headlight out of our van out here, you know, be sitting there and aiming at that headlight, boom, 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 you know. Defensive shooting is to be able to get your weapon, get it off of safety, think before you shoot, because you've got to anticipate, is there anybody else? What am I going to hit? You know, all these decisions are split-second decisions. I understand exactly what you're saying, because it's kind of like on the basketball court. I remember seeing a high school team warm up, and one of the players would actually start off in his warm-ups by not looking at the goal. He'd be dribbling the ball with the goal to his back and turn and then shoot. And what he was doing is trying to keep the equilibrium to where he could dribble the ball with his goal to his back, turn, and hit the bat. That was a split second.
Yes, and that's excellent. That's an excellent analogy. That is, because you don't know what's going to happen, and you have to be able to deal with it and recognize the fact that you're not always going to know what's going to happen next. So you're trying to prepare and have a plan for, once you recognize the problem that you're dealing with, how are you going to take care of it?
Get about a minute and 45 seconds before we take this break. I don't want to get into a lengthy part here where we have to stop in the middle, but later on I want to talk about the best type of weapon to keep in the home. And then, of course, we also need to talk a little bit about conceal and carry permits, too. Would not be bad. What can we cover real quick before we go to break here? Something about 2 minutes here.
See, the people who might benefit from this class, anyone who owns a firearm and needs to defend himself or his family. So if you have a firearm, then it would probably benefit you. And this class will help people who have experience and who have had training, and it'll help people who have had very little training.
Wonder how many people have a gun, a firearm, and they've never really gotten to know it.
A lot.
Yes.
And that's what we'd like to help fix. We'd like for people to be comfortable with their guns, understand when it's appropriate to use them, and be comfortable doing that. Gun handling skills are very important. Most people can shoot, but can they get their gun out safely and shoot if they need to?
Yeah. I think one thing about the Second Amendment, which I'm a very strong supporter of the Second Amendment, and I believe that we have the right to carry guns, period, and it shall not be infringed. That's what it says. But with that comes responsibility of
100%.
safety.
Yes, you are. If you're going to carry, it's more your responsibility as much as your right to do it properly, safely, and to have some training.
And with that, we'll take the news break. More with with Mike and Alka right after this. Oop, let me get this button. Now we're ready. Be right back. 7:33 on the sun's starting to peek its head out from behind the clouds. The NRA Personal Protection in the Home training at Bearing Creek is offering this, taught by NRA certified instructors Elka Summers King and Mike Sisk. Saturday, April 25th, 2015, $120 per person. NRA Personal Protection in the House teaches basic knowledge, skills, and attitude essential to the safe and efficient use of a handgun for protection of self and family, and provides information on the law-abiding individual's right to self-defense. For more information, please visit training@bearingcreek.com or call 870-404-5251. Is this anybody from Missouri, Arkansas? I mean,
Either one.
Okay, so
Either one.
Missouri laws are applicable in Arkansas,
Yes.
whatever?
Yes.
Is there any difference between...
Missouri law and Arkansas law, they are very similar. We have the Castle Doctrine in both states. We have the duty to retreat if we can do so safely in both states. And very similar places that you are and are not allowed to carry in both states.
Okay.
And your license for Arkansas is reciprocal with Missouri, and the Missouri license is reciprocal with Arkansas.
I think we're the same way with Tennessee.
Yes.
My son's permit to carry in Tennessee
Yes.
and reciprocates in Arkansas, so he
Yes.
can...
We are covered through most of the United States if you stay away from the West Coast, Northeast Coast, and Illinois.
Yeah, I started to say Illinois.
And actually, Illinois can carry here, but we cannot carry in Illinois.
Why?
Well, Arkansas accepts any concealed carry license from any of the states who issue carry concealed license, and other states do not. California, New York, and Illinois being those. Illinois is like Arkansas in that is a shall issue state. However, they do not consider. I believe it has to do with the fact that we don't require as much training as they require right now, and so they do not recognize Arkansas.
In my opinion, the only people with the guns out there are the ones that don't have the permit to carry and not following the law. Go to Chicago and see how many permit to carries you've got up there.
It would seem that way. However, fortunately, now that they do have concealed carry, I'm sure there are a lot of legally carrying people there now.
Mike's over here biting his tongue. You want to say something on that?
I'm doing just fine right here, Dale.
We're blessed in Arkansas.
We are very lucky to live where we do.
Oh, yeah, yeah. Oh, my goodness. You know, I was up in Illinois years ago, and at the time I had a 44 Magnum Ruger with a 10.5-inch barrel, and I was showing it to somebody. He says, "You'll get arrested for having that." I said, "Why?" "Well, because you've got it in your hand." I said, "I'm not doing anything. I'm just showing it. It's a showpiece." "Well, what if you kill somebody? I haven't even bought bullets yet." I mean, it's like Barney Fife. I had one in my pocket.
I want to make it sure that we get out there that the Saturday, the class, it's in a very nice place, a nice classroom, very comfortable. The range is a very nice range, comparable to what you would see at Twin Lakes Gun Club.
Mm-hmm.
It's all going to be done very professionally, and it will be an eye-opener. You'll get materials to take home with you.
Yes.
A very good book that the NRA, it's about inside the home protection. A lot of good material inside that book, and it's an 8-hour class. Be there at 8 o'clock.
Yes. And if you want to sign up, please give us a call.
Please give us a
make sure
call.
You have everything you need.
Yeah, and
What's the age limit? Anybody older than 18 or 21?
18 is fine. You need to be an adult. If it were a very responsible, little bit younger, we could discuss that because this is an in-the-home course. It is not about carrying outside the home.
Right.
So, and as you know from everything you've seen on the news, there are plenty of young people who unfortunately are forced to defend themselves and their families in their home.
Mm-hmm.
So it would be good if they are trained to.
And it looks like we got 7 points here. You'll cover introduction to defensive shooting, which we discussed, basic defensive handgun skills,
Yes, that is the range portion.
firearms and the law, possession, ownership, and the use of deadly force, strategies for home safety, and responding to a violent confrontation. What about security alarms?
We discussed that, and security alarms are great. They warn people that someone is breaking in if they're home, so that gives you a little extra time to respond if you turn it on. It's like locking your doors. Every house has a lock, and if you lock the door while you're inside, then you might know that someone's coming in your home. If you don't bother to lock your doors, then they may be inside and a little closer than you'd like before you have an opportunity to put your plan into action. So that's always a good thought.
Okay, let's talk about door locks and window locks. A lot of the older homes have maybe just a flimsy wood door with a little flip, you know.
Mm-hmm.
Even the screen door at my house. I mean, yeah, it's locked. I'm just going to tell you right now, you know, I could probably get in it with a basic screwdriver.
And it will not stop someone who wants to come in.
Yeah.
So
deadbolts, you talk about deadbolt locks?
Those are great. We do discuss door locks and window locks in the course. And as I said, if someone wants in your house bad enough, you're not probably going to stop them. However, those things will buy you time. If you wake up or if you recognize the fact that someone is breaking in, you can call 911. You can put your defensive plan into action and be prepared if they get into your home.
Now, this is probably one of the most important aspects here, selecting a handgun for personal defense. What's step one?
Well, you absolutely must have a reliable handgun for self-defense. If it's not reliable, it doesn't matter. So if you have a gun that you love and it doesn't run well for you 100% of the time, then that may not be the one you want to use for self-defense.
Meaning that if you shoot, say you've got 9 shots in the clip or however many they hold, and after the third one it jams up, that's unreliable fire.
Correct. The other things that you want to look for when purchasing a handgun for self-defense is you want it to fit your hand. You want to be able to operate the controls on it with one hand. You want it to feel good and be comfortable in your hand. And if it's reliable, it fits your hand, and it's comfortable to you, then the next thing to look at would be cost.
I think Ron had that same issue. I'm sitting out there at the front. Wish I could get him in here and see what he did with that. But what we were discussing there again, the single 35-year-old woman at home needs to get that gun. You need to be able to totally operate the gun in the dark, basically with your eyes closed. In other words, you need to know that gun
without
by feel,
looking at the
without
gun.
looking at the gun. I'm not saying
Yes.
shoot with your eyes closed.
No.
And Dale, in 2015, there are a large number of very reliable handguns being manufactured. There is no reason for a person to have to buy an unreliable gun in this day and age.
That's a good point.
There's not. There are so many good, high-quality firearms that are affordable. You can look at revolvers, you can look at semi-autos, whichever your preference is. Go to a local gun store and walk in there and look at all the different handguns they have on display, and don't be afraid to ask questions, and don't be afraid to pick them up and put them in your hand and see how they actually feel. Elka does a class called a test drive. And how many firearms do you have available?
Usually around 12. And for this class, it is to help you choose a carry concealed handgun or defensive handgun. I have 12 different handguns, a chart that lists things like recoil, how does this gun feel, can I manipulate it, and you shoot each of the guns and you write down about each one so that you can keep track of them, because once you shoot 12 guns, it's kind of hard to remember which one you really liked. But this is a great, it'll save you a lot of money, because when you go to the gun store and you buy a gun because it looks cool or it feels good in your hand, and then you go and shoot it and you hate it, you know, you're out a lot of money at that point. So this class is $60, and it's a one-on-one class. It's open to anyone with a concealed carry license or who has taken one of my classes prior. And it's a great opportunity to figure out what you might like in a defensive handgun.
As far as I know, this is the only place you can go and do in this area a test drive of that many different firearms, and it will help you greatly in making a selection so that you don't run out and buy the wrong gun. And many times, you know, what you think may work for you in the gun store or what you read about in the gun magazine or online, man, that's great stuff, and then you get it out to the range and you don't like it. And then we kind of start second guessing ourselves. This is a great idea. Highly recommend that to anybody who's looking to make a purchase like this. Maybe a lot of people are inexperienced about buying guns. If if this is your first gun or something, this is a great idea.
I would have to ask probably you or Elk or someone, what do I need? I mean, okay, let's use me for an example. My hand may be bigger than the 35-year-old single lady at home. What would be good for me?
Myself, I'm going to recommend you something in a compact to full size, and we prefer 9mm caliber handguns.
Really? 9mm?
I prefer a semi-automatic.
Mm-hmm.
That's up to you. You'd have to try to make up your own mind if you like a semi-auto or a revolver.
Revolver's a little bit slower, right?
Not necessarily. They are for the most part simpler to operate.
But if you had the semi-automatic, wouldn't that be more accurate, because you'd almost have to have a double action revolver, right?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
For defensive purposes, a double action revolver is the better choice. Double action only. So yes, on the semi-auto, you have more ammunition in your gun, which is an advantage. Depending on the caliber of your revolver, your 9mm semi-auto is going to have, you'll probably have better recoil control, recoil management with the slide than having all the recoil going into your hand from the revolver.
Now, with a double action revolver, I've had a couple that it seemed like you have to pull a little bit harder on the trigger because it's back in that hammer back.
They have a long, heavy trigger pull, whereas more of the double action only semi-autos have the same longer, heavier trigger pull, but it's consistent like the revolver. The striker-fired semi-automatics tend to have a shorter, little bit lighter trigger pull, which is also consistent. So again, if your trigger pull is not so heavy, you'll have a better time keeping on your target and getting your recoil management.
Yep.
750. Closing out the show, talking about training at Barron Creek. NRA Personal Protection in the Home, Saturday, April 25th, $125 per person. 404-5251 is the number to call. Let's focus a little bit, folks, on our retired senior citizens. May have a few folks out there that may be getting up in years, perhaps widows, widowers. I think this would be outstanding training for them as well. You're never too old to learn.
No, and actually I've had people take their carry concealed class in their 70s and 80s. Some of them had never fired a gun before, and we cover all of that in the carry concealed class. I teach people how to shoot correctly in that class, as well as the law and handgun safety.
Because how many times have we seen, if y'all watch Channel 3, Channel 10, whatever news out of Springfield, elderly couple murdered in their home?
They are, unfortunately, because they are perceived as weaker due to their age or infirmities, they are, unfortunately, more likely to be victims than young, healthy people.
So this would be very beneficial to folks of our retired community.
Correct. And wow. Our class is not intimidating, answer all the questions, want everybody to have a good time and learn as much as they can there. And so we really try to make it a great day for them where they can learn as much as possible.
So let's extend an invitation. If you're older than me, which, we have a few out there, I want to encourage folks to give Elk. Is that your number, the 404?
Yes.
Is that your number? Call Elk at 404-5251 and discuss this with her. Would you?
Yes, I'd be happy to talk to anyone about it. Whatever your needs are, we can figure out a class that will work for you. And if you've never taken if you don't own a handgun but you'd like to get started, if you would like to get a carry concealed license, then you can take the class. You don't have to have a gun. I'll provide that for you. And if you're not interested in getting a carry concealed license, then we can discuss what you do need to help you to defend yourself if you need to.
And your next concealed carry is May 3rd?
Correct.
Sunday, May 3rd?
Yes.
And Saturday, May 23rd?
Yes.
And you teach that?
I do teach that.
Mm-hmm. Now, I want to point out to both Mike and Elka, you've gone through the extensive training through the National Rifle Association,
yes.
Is that correct?
Yes, absolutely.
What kind of training? Is that extensive for instructors?
We've
had at least 7 full days of training where we take the classes, then we learn how to teach the classes. Extensive instructor training, range safety officer training, covers a lot of things.
So this is extensive well-regulated.
The NRA would like you to do an excellent job, and that is our goal as NRA instructors.
This is not the old Wild Wild West bank robbery type stuff.
No,
this
the
is very
NRA
serious instruction.
The NRA is the premier instructional organization in the country, and we've spent several days, full days, all day, 8 to 5, 8 to 6. You know, we went to Searcy, we've been up by Rolla, and spent 3 or 4 days at each place getting trained to do this stuff. And
wow.
It will be very safe, it'll be very eye-opening, and it'll be very enjoyable.
Wow, that's something else. Once again, NRA Personal Protection in the Home being taught by Mike and Elka this Saturday, $120 per person. Is to teach basic knowledge, skills, and attitude essential to the safe, efficient use of a handgun for personal protection. Now, call Elka at 870-404-5251. Missouri and Arkansas folks are welcome.
Yes.
And I want to extend an invitation to those retired, getting elder. Well, I'm too old to do this. I'm too old. You're never too old to learn to protect yourself.
100%. That's
that
the
right?
truth.
That's right.
Because you never know when you'll have to. Hopefully it'll never happen, but if you do, you want to be prepared for it.
Mm-hmm. Ron, what do you need? Is that something we need to talk about real quick?
No, you and I did that show a while back.
Yeah.
With Dan
Pull that mic
Hall.
up. That mic's turned on you. Go ahead.
You and I did a show a while back with Dan Hall, and I had printed out a little syllabus of different things about guns.
Uh-huh.
Anyway, and so I gave Mike and the young lady here a little copy of it. I can get you one too. It's just that one I wrote about should everyone own a gun and the difference in types of guns.
Yeah, I want to point out Ron is semi-retired and a little bit older than me, and you're comfortable with operating a handgun. You and your
Very.
wife both.
Very.
So would you be willing to extend an invitation to encourage folks your age and older? You're about 10, 12 years older than me. I'm 57.
Everyone should take a concealed.
But I'm talking about this NRA Personal Protection in the Home.
Oh, yes, they should take it. They should take it.
Last minute. Who wants the last minute? Elka or Mike?
I'll give it to
Mike.
Mike.
You got 57 seconds.
57 seconds. Well, I'm gonna follow in step here and encourage people to give us a call. If for whatever reason you can't reach Elka, you can give me a shout at Minute Mechanic. I'll be up there 8 to 5 every day. A lot of the people are going to know me. You can even swing by, and if I'm not busy, I'll be glad to sit down and talk with you about this. And again, plan on it being all day, 8 to 5
You'll need
ish.
to bring a lunch.
Bring your own lunch. Bring a gun. Bring some ammunition, and you're going to learn a lot. This will be an eye opener for you. It's money well spent, and it's not going to be a waste of your time by any stretch. And it will be a wide range of topics that we will discuss. And if you've got questions, don't be afraid to ask them. That's why you're there. And we will do our best to give you accurate, logical answers to what your questions are. Absolutely.
Once again, Training at Bering Creek is offering NRA Personal Protection in the Home Saturday, April 25th. $120 per person. Training at BeringCreek.com or call 870-404-5251. Stop by Minute Mechanic, talk to Mike. Talk to Elka by calling that phone number I just gave out. Time for the Rush Morning Update, followed by Glenn Beck. We'll be back tomorrow. See you later.